Today, we have assembled here to celebrate the 127th birth anniversary of one of the greatest stars in the world of statistics, Professor Prasanth Chandra Mahalanobis. I will now request Mr. Jahor Sarkar. We need to introduce him briefly, even though the ISI community knows him very well. Mr. Sarkar is a retired Indian civil servant who is equally well known as a researcher, publisher of articles, author, and a public speaker. He last served as CEO of Prasar Bharati from February 2012 to October 2016. He has been unanimously elected as chairman of the prestigious Center for Studies in Social Science, Calcutta. He served as Secretary of the Ministry of Culture, Government of India from 2008 to February 2012. As the Secretary of the Ministry of Culture, he initiated long pending reforms and took up the modernization of museums, archives, and libraries, for which he was awarded the British Museum Medal. So we will now request Mr. Sarkar to address on this occasion.
Today, I would like to highlight certain other aspects of Professor Prasanth Chandra Mahalanobis that are usually missed out when we make our assessment about him as a professor, as a statistician, as somebody who was solidly grounded in physics, was so deeply involved in national reconstruction in the Planning Commission. I would start by putting in a very subtle point, but this matters more than anything else because it relates to the foundation of the Indian democracy. Immediately after independence, when government stepped in to assist the ISI, there were attempts to put quite a few conditionalities and turn it into a government organization. This is the point we need to note, that Dr. Mahalanobis stood up for his principles, stood up for academic autonomy, stood up for the right to decide what research would be conducted without interference of the state, politics, or government. This is indeed a remarkable achievement because based on the ISI's independence, its autonomous structures, quite a lot of other institutions of India, free India, would grow up. He was in fact offered a ministership by Pandit Nehru, which he refused, and that shows the character of the man. He refused because that would curb his independence. When he was told about the provisions in the act that would curb his capacity to function, he said he would resign. That is a man. And he is a forebearer of academic autonomy, research autonomy, and one of the finest examples that we need to put forward now. I'll give three short examples because all of you are familiar with it. In the 1920s, late 20s, he used his discipline of statistics to adjust the riverbed of the Mahanadi for 60 years, based on which the Hirakud Dam would come up. This is academics with a purpose, and this is what most academics tend to miss out when they get into the esoterics of research. His work on the crop estimates are a foundation level work that India follows. His work on the Bengal famine, for instance, reveals a deep sense of involvement with his countrymen. His work in anthropology, rather anthropometrics, is known to all, even though this sort of racial analysis or anthropometric measurements are not in favor now. In fact, the concept of race is being challenged. The fact that he has done basic solid work once in a lifetime and has kept them for us is a salutary tribute to physical anthropology and even on to social anthropology. That reminds me when I started my own little research into the population of Bengal, into the social structure of Bengal, Bengali society. I had to fall back on pre-census estimates, and the only ones that were available were with the pre-census population study unit of the ISI. This is quite a far-reaching thought, a far-reaching exercise that he had undertaken with Professor Durga Prasad Bhattacharjee, who I happen to know. And most students of statistics would perhaps not be interested in getting into this very nebulous, this very amorphous area. But we must realize that the firm ground is not the only ground. These tools of statistics, projection, extrapolation, backing needs to be done so that we have a reasonably firm estimate of what I call terra incognita, the unknown land. Because all proper work cannot begin with firm estimates. My submission is that we also need to take very intelligent and very supportable estimates on how Bengal or how India looked before the first census of 1872 came. And that is where Professor Mahalanobis and Professor Durga Prasad Bhattacharjee played their role. Now I'll come to something very interesting. This interesting part is that being so close to Tagore and Vishwabharati, he could not but be interested in literature and society. I read with a great amount of interest his annotated note or his explanatory note on Muktodhara. In fact, I would recommend that this note on Muktodhara, which he has written in 1922, an explanatory note, cuts a lot of speculative nonsense that often comes with literature and the humanities. He is a scientist, straight to the point, and in very crisp and clear language, he has explained what Tagore had tried to do. He also got into a serious committee discussion with stalwarts of the language, linguistics and Bengali, like Professor Shuniti Kumar Chattopadhyay, Professor Charuchandra Bandyopadhyay, Professor Haraprasad Shastri. And this debate was on the problem of spelling of colloquial Bangla words. Now, this is in the 1925 that he engaged with them, of course, at the behest of Rabindranath Tagore. But then of all the persons available, he had picked up this subject with his eye for logic. The amount of contesting spellings, the contesting pronunciations that came in, he wanted standardization. The man was very clear in what the country needed, even if it be in linguistics. As you all know that he was an active member of the Brahmo Samaj, but very few would know that he actually conducted services like a priest, and he was also their president for many years. In spite of that, when we examine deeply the religiosity of Professor Prashanta Chandra Mahalanobis, we find a streak of secularism. He was basically intrinsically secular, plural, and the way people like us would put him into the category of a questioning agnostic. In fact, you cannot be a scientist and not be a questioning person. Agnosticism. But then the last and the most interesting domain that I will try to put in a few words is about his association with Tagore. What we need to understand is the insights that he has left behind. The Jallianwala Bagh incident, for instance, is a big question mark. I mean, the reactions to Jallianwala Bagh. As we all know, Tagore was the first to get into this reaction, and he was deeply melancholic. During this period, Prashanta Mahalanobis was closest to him, and he has left behind notes on how Tagore felt about the brutal massacre, how he differed with Mahatma Gandhi, and how relieved he was as a person when his letter of surrender of knighthood came. These insights from very personal knowledge are absolutely essential, and they enrich our state of knowledge. His Tagore Chronicle that came out in 1931 is in fact the skeleton, the very core of biographies on Rabindranath Tagore. Even now, they provide a very authentic, skeletal, brief, scientific, bullet point wise note on where Rabindranath went, what he did up to his 70th year. This is a valuable document. He was deeply influenced by his universalism and his humanism. And this influence is not something that he contained to himself personally. His humanism comes out at every step of his work in planning, in social service, in rural reconstruction, to which he devoted his life through the Planning Commission and otherwise. Finally, a last word on his work on Tagore. In 31, he wrote on impact of Tagore in modern India. There are many other Bengali and English writings to which we can refer. And his work on Tagore and Vishwabharati provide valuable source materials for that period that need to be factored in when people make their analysis of Rabindranath Tagore based on records that are known only in Vishwabharati. Though small, ISI contains a certain amount of information that should be factored more into Tagore research. All in all, I would sum up by saying that Prashanta Chandra Mahalanobis was a man far ahead of his time, a complete man, a Renaissance man, a scientist with a humanist heart and a literary bent of mind.